Hey, okay, so it's chapter 2 of Tower at the End of Time. This is the second book of our trilogy. Remember, we read the first one at school, The House at the Edge of Magic, The House at the Edge of Magic. And in that book, we've been introduced to Nine. She's an orphan. She's come along. She's met this magical place with these magical, weird people, crazy people, like unbelievable people. But within these people, she's found friends. So we've met Eric, Flabbergast, Dr. Spoon, we met the witch, and even though the witch had the curse on the house, and they've met under like really scary circumstances because they could have all been shrunk to like nothing. Nine seems to have a bit of respect for the witch, doesn't she? She seems to have a bit of admiration for her, especially as it was just sibling rivalry in the end. Who can remember who is the witch's brother? That's right, Flabbergast. So anyway, back to this book. So we've found Nine hasn't gone back to her old life, being a pickpocket, living with Pockets and all the other children in the house. She's decided this house is magical, it's weird, it's unbelievable, it's nothing like what she's met before, but she actually feels quite comfortable there. So she's returned to the house. So I've got my cup of tea. I'm feeling hydrated. My hair's gone all bouffant. I'm ready to read. Are you ready? Chapter 2. So remember also, Flabbergast said the house will pick your room. Not you, not the other way around. So she's found a ladder that's been highlighted to her. So she's gone up, she's gone into the room. And we're thinking, what is going to be in this room for Nine? Why is it going to be special? And I asked you to think about, make a prediction. What do you think is going to be in this room? Let's see if you're right. Chapter 2. The room was an odd shape, hexagonal, but slightly squiff. We've been doing 2D shapes. How many sides does a hexagon have? How many vertices does a hexagon have? I bet you can all tell me. As if it were stubbornly refusing to be exactly the same as a regular hexagon. The two walls opposite the door each had a tall window, partially covered by a pair of long turquoise curtains. The walls were covered in lilac wallpaper, speckled with golden stars. The floorboards were scattered with thick woolly rugs, and the softest looking one lay before a brick fireplace. Nine went towards it, hesitantly, and ran her hands through the long fleecy material. She thought of the old sack she used to sleep on, the cold seeping through it from her damp stone floor and right into her bones. There was also a wooden chair and a writing desk in one of the corners, a wardrobe, a large trunk with a fabric-covered lid, and a floor-to-ceiling bookcase full of glorious books. She smiled and trailed her fingers along the gold-lettered spines. They were all strange titles. She'd never heard of any of them before, except... She stopped at a brown fabric-bound book, and her heart gave a little lurch as she read the gold script. The Mystery of Woolven Moor by Horatio Piddlewick. It was her favourite book, and the last book she had ever read in her old life outside the house, taken from the tumble-down library run by dear Mr. Downs, the ginger-haired, horn-rimmed, speckled librarian. She would miss him more than she cared to admit, and yearned to open the book and just read a few pages to feel some sense of normality, some familiarity. Her fingers lingered over the title, but she couldn't quite bear to pick it up. To think that when she last went to read it, the book had been sitting on top of her sackcloth bed. Perhaps Flabbergast was right. The room was perfect for her after all. She turned to look at the bed she had now. It was a black iron-framed bed with fluffy pillows and turquoise-coloured silky sheets. A bed! Wow! A real, proper bed! She pushed her homesick feelings to one side. There was only one thing to do with a real, proper bed. Nine took a running jump and threw herself on it. She rolled around, cuddled and puffed up the pillows, then flopped down, star-shaped on the mattress. The ceiling was painted a beautiful deep blue and was dotted with what looked like sparkling, swirling silver runes. A house, a home. She had everything she needed. If the room was so perfect for her, then why did she still wonder if she had made the right choice? Knock, knock. Nine frowned. because the knocking wasn't coming from the bedroom door. It was coming rather oddly from her new wardrobe. Knock, knock. 9 jumped off the bed and walked over to the wardrobe. As she touched the door handle, she realised where exactly she had seen this wardrobe before and what exactly would be inside it. I wonder if any of you can make a prediction. What do you think is knocking inside the cupboard? I've already got a little idea. She put her hand on her hip. She raised an eyebrow and she yanked the door open. A skull rolled out and stopped at her feet. Who guessed it? Who guessed it was going to be the skeleton? You, said 9, staring down at the skull. Then she looked at the wardrobe. Inside, just about propped up, was the unskulled body of the skeleton. A skeleton in the closet was bad enough, but a headless one was definitely worse. She had discovered him in the wardrobe during her previous visit to the house. She had learned 3 things about this skeleton, none of which made her particularly excited to see him again. Firstly, he was gloomier than a grey day in winter, though to be fair, he was dead, and he was stuck in a wardrobe. Secondly, his finger was really good for picking locks. And thirdly, flabbergasted. He became oddly frustrated when she mentioned him. I've been knocking for ages, but I don't suppose you'll replace my head, boomed the skull without moving his jaw. No one cares about your head when you're dead. I've been rattled and clattered and thumped about. The house took off, said 9, examining the skull. By the way, Bonehead, how do you speak without moving your mouth? She tipped the skull upside down. Do you mind? Just because I'm dead, people assume they can shuffle me around, steal my bones, he said pointedly. That was once. And only 1 finger, 9 replied gruffly. And I brought it straight back. Why are you even in my room? Well, that dreadful wizard moved me here. Said he didn't want me on the landing anymore. That I was bringing back painful memories for him. What about me? Nobody cared about me. But now you're here, perhaps you could bring me out for a change, change of scenery from time to time. Bring me a nice cup of tea, maybe. Dust my rib cage down. 9 sighed and plonked the skull back on the top of the skeleton. As she did so, it tightened and fused together with a sickening click. Sure, said 9, still trying to work out how she actually felt about having a skeleton in her bedroom, let alone one who required dusting. I'll definitely dust you later. She shut the wardrobe door. No, you won't, droned the skeleton from the wardrobe. No one ever dusts me later or tells me what's going on outside. Outside? What exactly was going on outside? 9 went over to the left-hand window. She rested her hands on the soft turquoise material of the curtains. The house was travelling through magical realms. Did she dare peek? Of course she did. 9 yanked back the curtains. Blackness. Endless, beautiful blackness. She gasped as swirls of silver strands rose out of nowhere, twisting and dancing together, then exploding in a blinding flash, leaving just a trail of fading stars in the blackness. Then 2 more swirls of shimmering strands rose, twisted and danced. Marvellous, isn't it, madam? Said Flabbergast behind her. 9 spun around to see him, smiling contently, leaning against her doorframe. He was holding a saucer and sipping from a flowery porcelain cup. She hoped the skeleton didn't discover that Flabbergast was drinking from the finest tea in all the realms. The inability to drink tea was surely something else that Bonehead would have an opinion on. We're in the world between worlds, in nothing, yet in the fringe of everything. It's one of the most perilous places in existence, but also one of the most wonderful. 9 put her hand on the window catch. Her curiosity was rising. What was it like out there? I strongly advise you not to open the window. One guest opened their window, and we've never been able to shut it since. He looked lost in his memories for a moment. Besides, it's safer not to. We're travelling at tremendous speeds, madam. It doesn't feel like it, said 9, looking again at the silvery strands. It doesn't look like it either. Of course it doesn't, said Flabbergast, lifting his nose higher in the air. This is magic of the highest level, madam. And besides, the house is exceptionally well trained. Whoomp! A huge shockwave jolted through the house. Nine lost her balance and fell to her knees on the floorboards. She looked up at Flabbergast, who was holding the door frame with one hand and his rattling cup and saucer with the other. Tea dripped from Flabbergast's nose onto his pyjamas. His eyes widened in alarm. And is this more magic of the highest level? Asked Nine sharply, rubbing her knees as she stood up. Whoomp! The house jolted again. The teacup rattled. Nine fell backwards against the window. It gave an alarming crack, but didn't break. Flabbergast fell forwards into the room. It was one thing to be flying goodness knows where in the unpredictable magical house. It was quite another to be flying goodness knows where in an unpredictable house, a magical house, when something was going rather wrong. Oh dear, said Flabbergast, placing his teacup and saucer on the trunk. This is most unfortunate. What? Said Nine, her patience rapidly disappearing. What is going on? Madam, I do believe the house has hiccups. And that takes us to chapter 3. So I'll see you for that one.